Good morning all. Thanks for attending. Hopefully it should be a short meeting this morning. I'd just like to confirm, I haven't got my usual bit of paper. This meeting is being filmed. The images and sound recordings may be also used for training purposes within the council. Generally, the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and a possible use of these images and sound recordings for webcast and training purposes. This is going to be our blip now. Can the members who are on screen please remember to turn their cameras off? Also, microphone and put microphone and camera on when speaking. And could we all turn all off our phones or put it on silent? Thank you. Do we have any apologies of absent?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Mogford, Councillor Cox and Councillor Jordan.
Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Minutes from the meeting held on the 5th of July. Does anybody have any items to bring up on this? No? Thank you. Okay, we don't only have the one item, agenda item today. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Could somebody move the minutes? Yeah, in a second. Thank you very much. We just have the one meeting agenda on the meeting today, and this will be this is an enforcement schedule, and this is going to be represented by Neil Gunter. Thank you, Neil.
No. Some technical issues there. I'm glad Andrew was there to resolve them. This is probably a very similar sort of scenario as to what occurred last month with the drill hall on Lower Dock Street. I'll just share my screen with you. Right. Essentially, we're looking at the Maltings, a listed building. You can see on the map there, that is the City Bridge. Maltings is that area highlighted by my cursor. It's been listed by CADU and was given as having a group value with a transporter bridge, but that is quite some distance away down here. Now, adjacent to the Maltings is a park, public park, and the Old Town Dock, and that's the lock for it just there, which is also forms part of the park area here and is also listed. Over the road is the Baltic Oil Works, which isn't particularly prominent in the landscape, but those who've lived in Newport a while will be aware of it. Very attractive building. So the Maltings, they're very prominent location. Fire damage in about 2005, and nothing has really happened to remedy that. It's been occupied on occasion by homeless people and has seen some antisocial behaviour there, not necessarily in association with the homeless people. In short, this is the view, obviously, from the SDR, and it's one of the most prominent things you see if you're coming into the city from that area. As I say, it really does blight that location, and obviously, as I say, you can see there some of the routes going through to the park, which basically encompasses the site. say roof has gone, and basically the water ingress has damaged some of the ironwork inside. It's rusting and expanding into the concrete floors. So what we're looking at is primarily getting these wall plates, getting the vegetation removed and getting some sort of cover in there. You can see on the left-hand side of the picture there, the wall plate was covered, but nothing further to that happened. We've also got on this western elevation, there is a structural crack opening up along there, and this apex here is about 250 mil out of true. The owner does seem to be engaging with us now. So one of the reasons bringing it to committee is just in case it stalls. They do seem to be engaging with our conservation officer, and things do seem to be moving forward. But because this has stalled in the past and the structural elements that we've got concerns about, it's just to make sure that we've got fallback if the developer, or the owner rather, doesn't proceed with their proposal. They did produce a structural report which did highlight these issues. There are some other issues as well in terms of the site not highlighted in the report. At the back of this, facing the river, between the river and the maltings, there's things like an open manhole cover, a window lintel has failed, and you can see the brickwork is basically going up in a V. And if that does collapse, that could cause significant problems with the building. As previously said, this is, if we do go ahead to serve a notice, it isn't to basically put it back in a serviceable condition. It is purely to protect it, excuse me, from water ingress, vandalism, get the vegetation removed, essentially stabilise it. And so, as you can see, it is a very prominent building. As I say, I'm sure you're all aware of it, but it is one of the things that you see when you enter Newport from this side. If we do serve notice, it has got to be the minimum necessary, because it can be subject to challenge over the costs. We would be endeavouring to recover the costs if we did do the works in default. In short, it pretty much is as per the report. So if I can just zoom up, probably best to go to an aerial view. Just so you can see its relationship. Go. As you can see, that that's the public park running right the way around the site. You've got here, as I say, the dock, the old dock lock gates, which is a very attractive park. I mean, it's got high value amenity. The developer has come forward with a couple of proposals, but nothing firm for a pre-application stage at the moment. So in short, we're looking at the potential to serve a notice. Say there will be cost implications for the authority, but we would be looking to recover that debt. It's rather brief, but in a nutshell, that's where we are with it. There is a risk to the public as well. The owner has fenced it off, but given the sheer scale of this site, that's really difficult to do. I was there probably about a fortnight ago and just managed to walk right into the site and walk round it. In terms of public risk, the building is closed off internally, but the vegetation growing from the wall plate has loosened the masonry, so there's risk of falling brickwork. If there were high winds that would catch these gable ends, again, there is a risk that they would tip. There's very little lateral bracing for them. I think that really covers it, unless you've got any questions you'd like to ask.
Any questions for Neil? Councillor Jones?
Have you got a vision? I'll show. Yeah. Do we have a timescale at all of what they are planning to do and when they're going to plan to do it?
They are looking to undertake the works in mid-August, i.e. this month. They have been engaging with our conservation officer, so we are fairly optimistic. They're aware of me taking this to committee to seek authorisation. I think they're keen to get it resolved, thus precluding us or necessitating serving a notice. But it's just that risk because, to say, this property has been, I think the fire was in 2006, and say very little work to actually protect the building, and until recently no real proposals for using the building. An empty listed building will, I think, inevitably attract unwanted attention. So it's whilst I'm looking at protecting the building, we're also trying to push to get this building back into some sort of use.
So my understanding on that would be that if worst case scenario, we put scaffolding around, fencing around perimeter, save the public, and then scaffolding to try and then safeguard it, and then pursue down the legal route to the clean costs. Yeah.
That's broadly it. There is some demolition that's being proposed, but that is limited to the apex on the eastern end, and we're looking at keeping that to the absolute minimum. They're talking about doing that from a cherry picker. So at this stage, they are looking at removing the vegetation. It's a bit uncertain what scaffolding and where. It's a very fast-moving site. But should they do it and we'd be happy with it, then, as I say, that would probably preclude us serving notice on them.
Councillor Linton?
Whilst they're doing this demolition, so as they don't take too much of the elevation down?
Actually, that highlights one of our concerns, because initially they came in with a vague figure of between 3 to 5 metres, which we were saying that's totally unacceptable. However, yes, there will be an officer present, and in discussions with them, we are looking at a smaller amount. It's probably going to be a couple of metres. If I show you my report, let's just get through. Right. Sorry, I was just getting the elevations up. I'll share those with you now. Okay. Essentially, it's this eastern gable end there. It's got quite a lot of attractive detailing in, as you can see. So we're looking at the minimum necessary to basically protect the building, but also we don't want to disrupt these features. And also, if too much is demolished, there's inevitable problems with that. But yes, it will be monitored. You can see on the western end, doesn't actually show it very well in this photograph, but there's also a structural crack running there down between the render and the brickwork, and you can see that the vegetation growing from the top. And again, the gable end, the apex of it, has actually gone on the western end. So you can see the risk, and that wasn't by demolition, that was just damage and the wind. So what we're wanting to do is ensure that this is only the minimal amount. You can see in that second window down, there is some structural bracing to stop lateral movement. But as I say, the whole structure has been basically damaged by water ingress over the last 15 years. Essentially, the water has caused the cast iron to rot and rust. This has expanded and then damaged the concrete floors. So there's also concerns about the structural integrity of the floors inside, and obviously their bracing effect against these gable ends collapsing is reduced. So I say I'm envisaging, I don't have the exact figure, but we're looking for, as I say, the smallest, the lowest possible amount to come off this structure. And I say it'll either be myself or the conservation officer will be on site at the time. Things like this are fast moving, so possibly it could require more, but we would be looking for the justification for that. In short, though, we're looking at keeping it to the minimum possible, but ensuring public safety and the integrity of the building. Okay.
Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, to be honest. It's more of a comment, I think. In terms of, there's been so many efforts, and there still are big efforts going on to market Newport at the moment as a historical tourism destination. We've got things like the Transporter Bridge, the Newport Ship, the Old Docklands area. This is part of that sort of offering. We've got a great two-listed building that's been sort of deteriorating for the best part of 20 years now. So, I mean, to me, it just seems like from your report and some of the other things that you have mentioned, but contained in that report, to me, it just seems like a no-brainer. This really does need to be followed through in the way it's been recommended. The fact that we've got the support of organisations like CADU, we've taken advice. I say we, the royal we. We've taken advice from consultants appointed by the Senedd. All those things have been taken into consideration. But this is such an important building. But we've also got sort of legal obligation as well, in terms of the Climate Disorder Act, Wellbeing and Future Generations Act. You've mentioned the fact that there has been antisocial behaviour there. There has been instances of theft, for example. So things like this are going on. There is an ongoing danger, as far as I can see. Never mind the tourism side of it, the environmental side of it. There's a danger to the public as well. So I think to issue this sort of enforcement notice or to give the authorisation for it, to me, just makes sense. I can't think of any reason not to follow the recommendation on this, to be honest. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further, Councillor Perkins?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. It's just to say that when we got authorisation last month for Lower Dock Street, there was a lot of rapid toing and froing, but the scaffolding went up and it's addressed most of our concerns. Lower Dock Street is now open to the public to pass through more readily than they could previously. And again, I think it sends out warning notice. If it stalls the discussions with us, then we will actually do some of the works in default ourselves. We've actually gone out to a couple of companies so far just to get some initial feedback. So we are ready if or when we need to do that. Okay, sorry for that, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Perkins.
You said there was a cost to the public purse if we go ahead with it. How do we recover those costs? And if it's not then repaid back, what happens then?
Right, to recover the costs, Councillor, essentially we have to do the minimum necessary to preserve the building, otherwise it's challengeable. In my report I highlight some of the scenarios, but in short, we'd be looking to force the sale of the property to recover the debt, if that were the case. I think this is one of the reasons why in this instance they're probably looking to try and do the works themselves, because I think it's probably fair to say as soon as the authority's name is mentioned, and it's true of any authorities, the costs escalate, and he's actually looking at using his own contractors to minimise that cost. And as long as he plays ball and does the required works and we're happy with them, we should be okay with that. Okay.
Councillor Screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's very sad to see such a building end up in this sort of state. But I can't see what use it could be. I mean, it seemed to be damaged beyond repair. You know, I hate to say it, but I mean, is there a case for the demolition of the building and something else being put there? Because it seems to me that although it's a listed building, there's not much there that could be actually done. Are there plans to, you know, use the shell of the building and put something else there, or what?
In short, yes, there is a lot of damage to the building, but CADU have been supportive of this action that's being proposed. The majority of the building, how should we say, it's on the cusp. I say the roof has gone completely, but it is what it is. Essentially, in modern terms, it's a factory building, so it's a large open space inside. Some proposals have come forward in relation to what they might apply for here. Say, in short, I think one of the proposals was for a hotel, housing, and say it has got potential for it, but given the peculiarities of the building, it's going to have to take some quite careful thought about how it is developed. And say, in short, it is, I think, one of the few standing maltings here in Wales. So it has a real importance, I think, to the area and part of the maritime history of Newport. And say, I was surprised when I was drafting the report in that the Old Town dock feeder is actually at the side of it, which isn't made reference to by CADU. But that whole frontage there is, as I say, probably only 3 elements that actually refer to the history of Newport and, as I say, that maritime docks influence. So in answer to your question, Councillor, yes, I think something can be done with it, but we are looking at urgent works, because if it does deteriorate any further, yes, we'll probably be on the cusp, and this is why we want to protect it now.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? I just have one. Neil, you mentioned that they would be using a cherry picker to carry out work. Would they have to supply risk assessments, safe working practices, whatever, to the council for that?
They have proposed that, and yes, they would require risk assessments for it. They wouldn't need to submit them to us, but we're working closely with building control. So if there were any concerns about elements of this, yeah, they should be flagged fairly quickly. There are concerns about using a cherry picker for the job, but given that the building is unsafe, it's probably safer initially to use cherry picker rather than trying to assemble scaffolding, though scaffolding will probably be necessary at a later point.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any further questions? Okay, I think, Councillor Reynolds, you've already proposed that we take up the recommendations of making the enforcement. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you. All those in favour? Okay, lovely that. So, Councillor Screen, you've got your hand back up? Oh, that's in favour, I take it, yeah? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. That's passed unanimously then, thank you. The next item on the agenda is for information only. Okay, thank you all for attending. I'll see you all next month. Thank you. Bye.